What is happening, baby? Welcome back to the Huddle Chat Sports Network's very own Fantasy Football Huddle, presented by Danklyfe brand and yours truly, Dallas Clark. Today, we're discussing all of the Week 11 waiver wire must-add players that you need to add to your roster right now. Some of them can be plug and play, started immediately. Some of them are later season stashes. I got a couple running backs, couple wide receivers, and a quarterback and tight end on here as well for you guys. And then in our next episode, we're going to be discussing Fool's Gold, players you should be avoiding that a lot of people are hyped up on right now, but that you should let your idiot league mates draft instead, and you get these players instead that we're going to be talking about today. Make sure you smash that like button if you like the content, and hit that subscriptions bar if you're new to the channel or you just have forgotten to hit the subscriptions bar up until this point. I appreciate you all for your love and support thus far. My appreciation is boundless and endless for you guys. Thank you so much. The Huddle Chat Sports Network and the Fantasy Football Huddle would not be what it is without your support. With that all being said, without further ado, let's fill up our cup, roll something up, and get right into the news. As always, we're going to discuss any of the injuries that really went down in Week 10, and luckily, we didn't really have many injuries at all in Week 10. As crazy as Week 10 was, and as interesting as it was, we thankfully were able to walk away fairly unscathed. You looked at Dalton Kincaid going out of the game. He did not return. He was supposed to have a big game, but he did not return after taking a knee injury. At this point, you might even be okay to drop Dalton Kincaid, but I would wait to hear what the injury information is. But I'm not going to lie to you, especially with how the tight end position has been playing thus far this season. I don't really necessarily think you need to hold on to Dalton Kincaid if he misses any time. Other than that, any injuries like Aaron Jones, he went out in the game, but he did come back, took a couple carries later on, so he might be questionable or on the injury report, but I think he's going to be good to go coming in this week. Now, as far as players you should be adding to your roster, I'm going to start out with some wide receivers. The first one, the one we've been talking about for a couple of weeks, we're not going to say a ton about him because you should already know a ton about him. Ricky Pearsall from the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of people were questioning what his role was going to look like when Deebo Samuel came back, when Jawan Jennings came back, when Christian McCaffrey came back. We saw that this weekend, and he had a fairly good performance. Not as many targets as you would like. However, he was one of only 5 players in this offense to receive targets. You're looking at only George Kittle, the players that I've mentioned, and George Kittle being a reception of targets. Those are the 5 receivers: Christian McCaffrey, Jawan Jennings, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Ricky Pearsall. He's a dynamic playmaker in a dynamic offense, and he's gonna be a flex player with a lot of upside for you that I feel like you can start right now in your offense. Now, coming to the next wide receiver we're going to be talking about, it's a player that I feel like everybody kind of has to at least pay attention to after last week. He's the definition of boom or bust. We're talking about Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Right now, only owned in 2% of leagues. He had 2 big catches, 2 touchdown catches, and 109 yards in the first half of this game this last week. You're looking at him, like I said, being the true definition of a boom or bust. You're looking at Bub Means, Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, all being on injured reserve, all being out for extended periods of time. And who are they going to throw to? Lo and behold, it's Marquez Valdes-Scantling. A lot of people didn't even realize MVS was on this team. He was with Buffalo early in the season and didn't do much. This is actually his second game with the New Orleans Saints. His first game, he only had 1 reception. But you're looking at him having a big involvement in this game. And who are they going to go to besides Taysom Hill, besides AK-41? It's going to be Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He definitely is somebody that I don't know if I'd be comfortable starting, but if you need to start a flex option, if you need to start a wide receiver too with the bye weeks and the last couple of weeks of injuries, I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling slides in there absolutely beautifully. Moving on to the running back position that we're going to be talking about, and before we do, if you haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button because you have no idea how much that helps me out, and make sure you tune in on Sunday. We're doing it live only on YouTube for this one last week. Make sure you tune in live Sunday morning, 9:30 Mountain Standard Time, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, and that's where we do our live Sunday NFL pregame kickoff show, where I give you guys the injury lineup, the injury information that comes out right at 10 a.m., where I give you guys any lineup advice. I give you guys some parlays that can hopefully hit your rent this month. Now, moving on into the running back position, we're going to be talking about first Audric Estime from the Denver Broncos. He's a rookie, and it looks like he might be taking over this backfield. He's owned almost nowhere in any league, so you can get him. This week he had 14 carries on 53 yards, and it's not very impressive, but you are looking at him being playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, who have a really good run defense. He didn't catch any passes out of the backfield, but he's more of a between the tackles running back. You are looking at Jaleel McLaughlin only getting 2 carries. Javonte Williams only getting 1 carry as well in this game. And you're looking at Audric Estime getting 14 carries. So you're looking at him definitely being the only running back that you can go out there, pick up right now, and have weekly startability right now. The next running back we're going to be talking about is going to be more of a handcuff, but a handcuff that has weekly usage and has his own role etched out into this offense already. And that's going to be Gus Edwards from the Los Angeles Chargers. You're looking at him out touching J.K. Dobbins in the first half, but in the grand scheme of things, J.K. Dobbins had 14 carries and Gus Edwards had 10 at the end of the game. I think this is going to be more of a 1A, 1B situation. You're not looking at Gus Edwards really coming in and taking over this backfield from J.K. Dobbins. This is J.K. Dobbins' backfield. However, the two of them, especially with how hard J.K. Dobbins has been going at the beginning of the year and how good Gus Edwards is at complementing him, you're looking at the two of them going to be running together as a tandem like you see in Detroit, like you see in other offenses as well. I think Gus Edwards right now, owned in 21% of leagues, isn't somebody I feel 100% confident in starting. But however, like I said, it's hard to get a running back right now that has weekly upside and weekly startability, whether it be in your flex with a low ceiling or not. I think Gus Edwards definitely has the ability, especially if he finds the end zone a couple of times, to help your team out this season. So Gus Edwards is somebody that definitely should be on your waiver wire radar this week. Moving on to the tight end position, I think Pat Freiermuth should be the tight end that you should be focused on this week. You're looking at him playing against the Baltimore Ravens this week, and Baltimore is allowing top 5 yards per game and the number 1 points per game to the tight end position. Specifically, Pat Freiermuth is owned in 45% of leagues right now, so he's available in over 50% of leagues, just like anybody we would be talking about on this episode. So if you're streaming tight ends or if you need help at the tight end position, Pat Freiermuth can be that guy to help you out this week. If you need a quarterback, you're streaming quarterback, you need him help at the quarterback position, you're in a super flex league, Justin Herbert might just be the answer to the problems you could have this week. He's owned in 48% of leagues, and I honestly think that's very high for how Justin Herbert has played thus far. You're looking at the Chargers coming into this game having passed a lot more than we've seen through the beginning of the season. They were a run-first offense, but they've been passing a lot more, and they did pass a lot less this week. However, it's a game script issue. You're looking at Tennessee being a good pass defense and a run funnel offense, which could have been why Justin Herbert didn't necessarily have the best game on paper. However, you have his matchup this week against the Cincinnati Bengals. They've allowed the 4th most points per game to quarterbacks. Yes, they've played the Baltimore Ravens twice, but they've also played Jacoby Brissett, Daniel Jones, DTR, Andy Dalton, and Desmond Ridder as well, and they're still allowing top 4 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks right now. So Justin Herbert, especially with this week's matchup, can be a good plug-and-play option for you at the quarterback position. Rounding out the video, we're going to discuss a couple of people that you're okay to drop. We're okay to drop Chris Olave at this point if you do not have an injured reserve spot. He's going to be done until at least week 14, and that's if he comes back this season, and that's if your team makes the fantasy football playoffs. So if you don't have an injured reserve spot, you can let go of Chris Olave. You can also let go of Michael Pittman Jr. right now. You're looking at him finally being out this last week after a couple of weeks before saying he was potentially going to be going on injured reserve. Joe Flacco does not look good. Anthony Richardson, if he does come back in and take over, it's not like he's going to instantaneously become a top 10 quarterback passing the ball to Michael Pittman Jr. You're looking at him playing the Jets in week 11. You're looking at Michael Pittman Jr. having a week 14 bye and a bad playoff schedule on top of that. So if you need the roster space, go ahead and drop Michael Pittman Jr. Same thing with Amari Cooper. I'm not actively going out and trying to drop Amari Cooper. However, you have a bad matchup with Kansas City and then a week 12 bye. If you need some roster space, Amari Cooper can be dropped. Jonathan Brooks from the Carolina Panthers, I just don't think that it's going to happen this year. Chuba Hubbard looks great. It's already late in the season. If Jonathan Brooks comes back, what role will he really start to acquire late in the season? I don't think it'll be much, especially with the money they paid Chuba Hubbard and how well Chuba Hubbard has been playing thus far. I'm also okay to be dropping Javonte Williams from the Denver Broncos. 1 carry this week. Nah, fam, that can't be happening on my fantasy football roster. He hasn't been productive when he was getting a lot of carries. Now he's getting beat out by Audric Estime, who we talked about earlier in the episode. I'm all cool on that, guys. That's going to be it for today's episode. Make sure you always keep your chin up and your attitude down. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.